Hello friends, this is Caleb Bornock and I am doing a big project. And I'm doing it with all natural milk paint. And so I'm trying to see if there is a way for me to show you guys this. This is the head of a life-size reindeer. It is so big that it won't fit under the camera. But there we go. These are the ears and the horns. And I don't know why my camera is not focusing correctly. But anyway, these are the ears and the horns of my life-size reindeer, which I'm getting ready to put out for Christmas. And now I need to paint this one because I've made a second reindeer. And so I need to paint that one. And in order to do that, I am making milk paint. Let's see if I can move this camera back into some kind of position. Okay. So I have put 1 cup of non-fat yogurt in here, plain non-fat yogurt. No sweetener, nothing but yogurt made with non-fat milk. It does have to be made with non-fat milk. And all I have done is add in 3 tablespoons of hydrated lime. If you have seen me on this channel before, you know that I use hydrated lime as a mordant to make paint quite a lot. This is, I have a big bag of hydrated lime. Hydrated lime is a form of calcium that has been heated to almost 2,000 degrees. And then these are walnut hulls with the walnuts in them. And my friend gave me these off of their walnut tree. And they've been here for months, and I just have let them air dry. And then I used a little piece of granite that we use in the kitchen as a pounder. I put 4 of these into a bag, and I crushed them up a little bit. And they are boiling on the kitchen sink. And now I am adding, and then that'll be the brown color because I need brown. And walnut makes a really great brown, rich brown color. And then I am adding a teaspoon of a teaspoon of hot water with 1/3 of a teaspoon of borax into this mixture of yogurt, 1 cup of yogurt and 3 tablespoons of hydrated lime. And then this has to sit because it's been in the fridge. It needs to sit and become room temperature, and it needs to sit for 15 minutes, and then I'll stir it again, and I'll let it sit for 5 minutes and stir it again, and then I will be ready to add the boiled walnut down. It's boiling on the stove right now. I'm just going to let it boil until there's a thick, rich pigment. I'm going to boil 90% of the water away, and then I'm going to strain the walnuts out. They can be thrown away or composted, or they can be reused again. You can boil them 3 or 4 times to get brown paint out of them, and so I'll probably save them for that purpose. And then I will show you guys my paint. So that's where we're at. Okay, my friends, it has been maybe an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes, and this is the 4 walnuts that I crushed. I put them in about 3 cups of water. Walnut gets darker and darker as the longer you boil it, the richer the color becomes. And I really need a good dark brown. So I cooked it for quite a while. I probably maybe shouldn't set that too long on my glass slab because this is a scalding hot pan. And this has become a very paint-like consistency and is looking really good. However, I cannot put this into here until it is completely cool because that will curdle the milk paint. So what I'm going to do is just drain this, and this is sort of thick and syrupy, I have boiled out 90% of the water. I'm just using a spatula. And shaking some of that liquid out. And walnut has been used as a brown stain and paint and pigment for, probably time immemorial. Certainly not a modern invention. Okay, so there is our pigment that we're going to use to tint some of this paint. Now some of this paint I need to keep white because I need a little bit of white. I need dark brown, I need light brown, and I need white. So this has got to cool. That's the next step. Okay, so this is cooling down nicely. I did want to mention, I should mention that there is a chemical reaction that happens between the calcium in the milk that is made up the yogurt and the calcium that is hydrated, the hydrated lime, and the borax, and that is what makes this paint. And this is exterior quality permanent paint, and walnut is also exterior quality pigment. And you can see, if I've been swirling this a little bit, and you can see that there is some pieces of pigment in here that I don't want in there. You can see the sort of lumps and bumps, and so I've got a little piece of used cotton here, and I'm going to use that to strain this, and I'm just going to pour this through with any luck. It's just starting to drip because I want to remove these lumps and bumps. So I'm going to let that drip through the cotton fabric in this tea strainer for a minute. Okay, I feel like I'm on a deadline because at some point I'm going to have to go to dinner because our family is having dinner. So I'm pouring some of this into here, and I have removed about 2/3 of this because I just want to make enough brown paint that I can do my project. I don't want it to, because I'm going to need quite a bit of this to make this brown enough. And I'm whisking it in, but at some point I may need to put it in I'll probably put the stick blender in there, but obviously it's nowhere near dark enough. I mean, this might be good enough for the light brown paint that I need, but the largest part of the paint that I need is dark brown, and so I'm going to make the dark brown first, just to make sure that I have enough. So, this is what I got. It's not as dark as, oh, that's my kitchen stove going off. It's not as dark as I had hoped. I really wanted it to get closer to this, but I guess I needed to boil more than 4 walnuts. So I'm going to go use this and paint it, and then I'll show you guys I've reserved a little bit to do the light brown, and then we have the white. But I'm hoping maybe this will dry a little darker. Right now it looks almost exactly like chocolate pudding because the casein protein and the calcium have reacted to the tannins in the walnut. This has turned pretty thick, so it's almost exactly like chocolate pudding. Okay, in the meantime, I've taken about half of this white that I had reserved, and believe it or not, this may look pretty white, but it is actually would dry clear, because this is the tintable milk paint recipe. So in order to make paint that dries white, I've had to add, I don't know, I've taken maybe half a cup of this that I made, and I've added another tablespoon and a half of white hydrated lime to it, and then I have used the stick blender just to emulsify it, and now it's pretty thick, and I'll probably go and just blend that for about 10 or 20 more seconds one more time after it sits for a minute, and then I can start painting the white portions, the inner ears of the reindeer. And I have put the walnut hulls that I sieved out of this back onto the stove with about 2 cups of water, because the brown paint that I made that I just showed you is going on chocolate brown, and I really wanted it darker than that, but I figure I can paint it on now chocolate brown, and that can be the base coat, and then I will make, I'll use the next batch of water that I'm boiling now, and I'll do a final coat in the dark color. So that's what I'm doing right now. Only for you guys, I'm going to try to show you some of this painting process. This piece of plywood that I made these antlers out of is actually a used piece of cabinetry that somebody gave me. And so on this side, it had old stain on it that was put on like 30 years ago, and I've already painted it with the new paint, and it is drying. And this back side never was painted and needs to be painted, and the front is already wet. So let me see if I can turn this camera. Oh, this light is getting in the way. And these antlers are like 3 feet wide and 3 feet tall. So getting this on camera is not easy, but I just wanted to show you the way this paints on, if I can make this happen, because it paints on nicely. It's just not it's a chocolate brown, which is not a walnut brown. I was hoping for a walnut brown, but I am, as I explained already, making a walnut brown. I'm boiling more walnuts right now, so the final coat I'm hoping will be a walnut brown. But even if it isn't, I think this chocolate brown is probably just fine. It just won't match the other reindeer, which I did several years ago, and I did with commercial paint that someone had given to me. And nowadays I try not to buy paint, because what's the point of knowing how to make your own paint and then not using it to make paint? So I don't know if you guys can see any of that or not, but that's how this is going on. And then it'll dry, and I'll have to take photos of the whole thing. Okay, I have taken out the second boiling of those same walnuts, and I've decided, since I have to wait for that, I've painted the whole reindeer antlers with the paint. Since I have to wait for that to dry, I thought it might be a good time to come in and try to make the light brown. So I'm just adding this that I had sieved earlier, and we'll see if this makes it light brown, and if it doesn't, I have some of that stuff from the second batch that I can use, and we might as well try to scrub as much of this out of here as we can. It has begun to dry in here, so I've just added some of the paint to kind of lift it out of the bowl. And then, of course, as long as it's I mean, this is a glass bowl, so even though this is exterior paint, it will wash off. Okay. So I think I'm going to take this that I was sieving with a little scrap of cotton. I think I'm just going to take that and squeeze it into here, trying not to waste any pigment so you guys can see. I should probably move this camera back. See, I'm getting pigment all over myself. Try to squeeze all of this pigment out of this cotton cloth that I can, just because why go to all the work and then waste the pigment. And I think that is going to be pretty close to the color I want. I'm going to put that in the stick blender and I'll show you guys. Okay, so this is the medium brown. I don't know if I can hold that up to the camera and you guys can see it better. But, well, it's not a medium brown, it's a light brown. I think there was just barely enough paint that if I sort of held this bottle at an angle, I could sort of get the stick blender to work in here. Because there's only about maybe a third of a cup of paint in here. So that was tricky. But I'm not going to be able to paint this until the dark color has dried, and so this will probably be for tomorrow. So I'm just going to put the lid on this and set it aside and leave it until I am ready for it. And then I also wanted to mention to you guys that the reason you have to use non-fat milk when you're making this paint is because it will smell bad if it's 1% or 2% or full fat. Then that fat will go rancid in the drying process and it will smell bad. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that's why we're using non-fat yogurt to make this paint.